Good morning, Brian Early here, bringing an update from the field on this fine July 15th day. It's fungicide time again, and every year I hope this decision gets easier, but we're in that dilemma we're always in, whether we spray or not, looking at economics, weather factors going on, crop yield potential, and such. So I'm going to go over those kind of items today, and I definitely won't say yes or no for everybody to spray. So you can look at the things I present today and kind of make your own decision. So I want to start off with something that really confounds me, especially since we've had tar spot, and it's called latency. So you can think of latency as when those microscopic spores first arrive on the leaves, which would be this process right here that we have, number one. And then when you finally get development of the actual lesions that you can see with your eyes right there. So this is important because this is for the people that like to scout and see. Sometimes this can throw you for a loop, especially with diseases like northern and tar spot. So this graphic is actually um, the process by how northern gets on a leaf and becomes a lesion. Same for tar spots. So both diseases behave very similarly in that fashion. Um, so going out and scouting fields now, these infections may actually be in the leaves, but because they haven't developed into the lesions we can actually see, we can make decisions that aren't really what is indicative of the disease. So that would be the latency period. So this is something I think about this time of year when I go out and scout, and I'm trying to make recommendations when people ask. And this can really throw you for a loop because, especially with tar spot, we've been at this point a lot of times in the reproductive process. But tassel time, you see nothing, but then a couple of weeks later, all of a sudden we've got a lot of lesions start showing up, and that's due to this latency period. So really, what do I look at when I'm looking to make a decision, yes or no? So I'm weighing out all variables on the no side. Are we going to have disease? Do the conditions look favorable? Just how as the season went and things like that. The big things that tip my hat to the yes side or tip the scales to the yes side for me is yield potential and weather. So on the yield potential side, looking at trials, a lot of work has been done in the field, especially since 2018 when tar spot took the stage and really has defined our disease for the last 6 years. Is what is the yield potential of that field? So if I'm looking at a field that is 200 plus, probably even 220 plus, my payoff for a fungicide, or at least my break even, is a lot more likely to happen. So if I see a field that's nice and even, and I think I've got a lot of yield potential, getting that yield increase to at least pay for itself and make me some money with a fungicide application is definitely going to be more favorable. So that yield potential is a big factor for me. And then I look at weather. I look at both how it has been. So am I seeing those periods of wet and dry, which up until the last week, we have definitely seen that in most places. It's been definitely more dry this week, especially to the north, but the south is still in this pattern of wet and dry a lot. So south of US 24 is definitely in that up down pattern that we've seen when tar spots really been active. And then I look ahead to the potential forecast over the next week or two. So I want to see, really for me, I want to see what that weather forecast is like to that blister stage in 8 to 14 days. So the 2 week period now for tasseling corn, that's about when we'll be in the blister stage. We're seeing above average temperature outlook and then above average on moisture as well. So if you've got really good looking fields of corn that are nice and even, and it looks like you have yield potential, it looks like the weather is also favorable for disease development. So tar spot definitely likes the moisture up and down, so the wet dry, and it will develop at above normal temperatures, although it likes a little cooler temperatures. This will definitely not hinder it. So favorable definitely for diseases like gray leaf spot and maybe even northern corn leaf blight as well. So when to apply? This is the one that has been a shift for us since we've got tar spot on the scene. We used to always go with brown silk or right at tasseling. That was kind of our sweet spot. That application time is still okay, but if I'm trying to get the most I can get out of a fungicide, so no matter what fungicide you put on, I'm going to get about 3 weeks, so 21 days out of it. I'm looking to balance that in my grain field to try to keep those plump kernels and get me into the really meat of the fill stage. So if I look at a calendar when that happens, I'm going to want to try to hit that blister stage. So the blister stage is when you've got your clear translucent kernels and they start to swell up and get that clear fluid in them and even start to turn a little bit yellow. And I've got the box circled on the right over here, and I'm trying to get that 21 days to make it pretty much to the dent stage. So if I look at blister to there, voila, there's my 21 days. So with tar spot, I want to move that application window back a little bit. So for those of you in most of the area, that means you've got a week and a half to 2 weeks really still to decide if you're going to put fungicide on or not, or really a week, because you got to give the applicator some time to get there and get things applied. So to me, that's the critical period we want to do. It's a little later than we've normally done in the past, but I think that's very important. That is when to apply. So products, I really don't care. I think they all perform really equally over what I've seen over the years if they're a two mode or a three mode of action. So probably the best marketed products in ag is fungicide. So you'll hear all kinds of wild claims. But when you step back and look what you see in the field on the yield side with control side, looking at the actual disease control, and then you look at data like Purdue does every year with fungicide trials, you see they all behave pretty much similarly on control and yield expectations. And that really has come to the forefront for me over the last 5 years that they're all pretty equal in my opinion. Opinion, excuse me. Additives, you can do none if you want. Just use fungicide and water. I'm not a big fan of any particular additives. They all add some cost to it, which with the economics this year, any cost you add makes it that much more yield you have to get. So I just not really sold on any particular additive. If your applicator has to have some kind of additive for how they apply, that's fine. But if they're willing to just do fungicide and water, that is perfectly fine as well. On the economic side, I ran some numbers based off the fall bid yesterday of 388 at Logansport ADM. With a $30 application fee, going to take me about seven, almost 8 bushels to gain break even there. So long term, when I've looked at fields that have had strips of untreated versus treated, that 8 to 10 is kind of what we've been seeing with a little bit of disease pressure, even or real late disease pressure. So in most cases with good yield potential fields, we are able to get that kind of application to break even. So I talked a little bit about additives. Question every one of them that goes in the tank. They just add cost to the mix, and if they're not pulling their weight or bringing you extra revenue to break or to pay for themselves, I would really question putting them in the tank. Probably the hardest one for me to put a number on is the standability, harvestability, yield gain from that. So with fungicides, one thing we've always seen, even with no yield increase before we had tar spot, is we always saw increased stocks or better stocks and the field stood better. So there is some dollars and cents to put on here, but this one is hard to quantify. So that's something when you look at nuts and bolts of just the strict yield gain, you really ought to think about harvestability and what that means to you as well. It's definitely not a zero, but it's a number I can't put in front of you today. So something to keep in front of your mind. So just to wrap this all up, just because you can't find any diseases yet really doesn't mean that you're good to go. So like I mentioned on that latency part with tar spot especially, you can make a decision right now at tassel time. That disease shows up in a couple of weeks, especially when the weather gets it going, and then you're out of your prime window to apply. So think about that and think about the weather and your yield level of your field and have that as your guide to make a decision. And then get the timing right. Look for that late blister stage. So when we're starting to see those kernels plump up is just about perfect for that. And then question anything you put in this tank besides fungicides. So I always want to make sure I'm getting a good ROI with any money I spend on my farm, and I urge you to do the same. So just to wrap all this up, once again, it's very cloudy, this decision on fungicide this year. If you run into questions, feel free to reach out to us or reach out to me individually. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.